So, Michelle, in my continued attempt to get us tickets to the premiere of Die Another Day, seriously, I'm going to work at this. I'm going to get a groundswell of our Twitter followers at Pie Spy Podcast, and they're going to hit up Universal and get us all to, or at least you and I, to the movie. Anyway, looking at real life James Bonds, the guys that inspired Fleming to create this character. One, I love this guy. He worked with Fleming back in MI6, back in World War II. Patrick Dalzell-Job.
Oh.
Patrick Dalzell-Job. Now, Patrick Dalzell-Job was this incredible, he was a submariner. I mean, and submarines, man, we can't get away from them. He was a submariner. He was a commando. He was, I think he was Air Force or maybe Navy, not quite sure of that. But he was a naval commander. That's right, he was. And he was a crack shot. And get this, he could ski backwards.
Right.
Yes. So in The Spy Who Loved Me, Roger Moore skis down a hill firing a machine gun backwards. That was Patrick Dalzell-Job. That was the guy who inspired that one little scene all those years later. Now, the thing about Patrick, Paddy as we like to call him, he was a bit of a wag. He liked to defy orders. He was ordered to leave a Norwegian fishing village and he refused. He stuck around and evacuated the fishing village using fishing boats, so very Bond, and he got all of these people out except 4 and saved them from a German bombing run. The Germans were going to bomb this village because they knew Patrick was in there, so he couldn't let them die. He took them all out except 4 of them, probably old guys that nobody wanted to know about anyway. Now, the big thing was he expected to get court-martialed for it. Yep. He was actually awarded the Knight's Cross of St. Olaf. By the Norwegian government for his bravery. And, of course, he got back to the UK and the UK went, no, we're going to put you into MI6, and hence he met Fleming. Now, everyone thought that he must have been the guy that Fleming based James Bond on. Not true. Because one of his things, when he was approached on it, he said, and I love this quote, "I only ever loved one woman and I'm not a drinking man." So he wasn't the archetypal Bond guy.
Okay.
Right, so that's Patrick. He inspired a scene probably and probably sort of character traits, but he wasn't the guy. Then there was Forrest Yo Thomas.
Forrest Yo Thomas.
Yo, as in yeoman, not yo as in, yo, what's up? Right, so he annoyed the Gestapo in France so much during World War II, they called him the White Rabbit. All right, we had the White Mouse, they had the White Rabbit. All right, and he was also known as Seahorse. And Shelley, they were his 2 code names with the OSS. But here's my favourite. Everyone just called him Tommy. Now, he was a fluent French speaker, which made him perfect to work with French intelligence and the resistance. Now, this guy was so cagey. He was so cagey that he actually was, shortly after Klaus Barbie had shot his partner, Tommy sat opposite Klaus Barbie on a train eating his dinner, and Barbie didn't even know it was him. Didn't know that this was the guy they were scouring France for. So he was very cagey until, of course, he got caught. He was captured by the Germans. He was betrayed by get this, a mistress. Go figure. He was betrayed and then tortured. Now, have you seen Casino Royale, the first Daniel Craig movie?
Of course.
Daniel Craig, who is one of the finest Bonds ever. I'm out. Well, it's him and Sean. It really is him and Sean.
No. Roger Moore's better than Sean Connery.
Oh, no. Roger Moore was way too camp.
No, Roger Moore was great.
No. George Lazenby, now, there was a Bond. He was the most accurate Bond.
No, Daniel Craig is the best, number 1.
He is. So, you know that scene near the end where he gets captured and strapped to the chair and the bottom of the chair has been cut out and there's that swinging rope?
Oh, yeah. Wow. Every man is like, oof.
Yeah, I spent the entire time just like sitting there wincing and crying, going, I feel your pain. So when he went, oh, I've got an itch. I'm like, bullshit, you have an itch. You have 2 sore balls.
Yes.
That was Tommy.
What? He did that?
That's what the Gestapo did to Tommy.
No.
Yes.
Gross.
Yes.
So that's a real thing.
He kept escaping or attempting to escape until finally they put him in Birkenwald, which was one of the concentration camps, like part of the Final Solution concentration camps, and they made him an orderly. He'd killed a Russian guard while he was in there. This guy was full on. He killed like a madman. Now, the thing is, he wound up in Birkenwald as an orderly until he was released at the end of the war. He wound up being one of the prime witnesses at the Nuremberg rally, at the Nuremberg trials. Not the rallies, the trials. The rallies were totally different. So, yeah, Forrest Yale Thomas, or Tommy, very, very Bond, right to the point where he took it just like Bond did in Casino Royale. In the balls. My God. I can remember watching that scene and went, man, this is some twisted imagination. And then I read, Gestapo, of course. Right?
Oh, yeah. Makes absolute sense.
The last one I want to look at, this is the guy who probably created that way that Bond says his name.
Yep.
The name's Dunderdale. Biffy Dunderdale.
Oh, I like that.
Seriously, Biffy Dunderdale.
Biffy.
Wilfred Biffy Dunderdale. He was born in Odessa. He spoke fluent Russian. Now, here's the interesting thing. He spoke with a Russian accent all his life, but he was really, really, really welded to MI6.
Right.
Because he did a couple of things. When he was a kid living in Russia, he worked as an interpreter for a white Russian general. Right. So this is pre-revolution, but he was standing outside a train carriage, like on the train carriage, outside a cabin on the train carriage, listening to the Russian general and the British MI6 agent try to seduce each other. So he was very good at, like, he was great at just standing around and listening to things. But the other thing that this guy did, which was brilliant, was he actually infiltrated Russia to look at their submarines. He was 19 years old. He put on his old school uniform and just walked across the border. Hey, I'm on a school excursion. And he got in and then spied on their submarine program.
Right.
So this guy was just the bomb. He wound up working in France. Because he was a Russian speaker, French speaker. He was a polyglot. He could speak a lot of languages, but he worked closely with the French.
Yep.
And he was instrumental in getting the Enigma program at Bletchley Park started, because the Polish had been looking at the Enigma machines the Germans had, their code machines. Now, they'd actually built one, and he stole it. Well, he was given it by the Polish, and then he had to smuggle it through France and out of the country to the UK, to the point where they actually put a destroyer just offshore within range of the guns. They parked it there so he could get to it and get that across. That's how important his role was. Now, he was regarded as a man of great sang-froid style who liked pretty women and fast cars. And he would oft regale Fleming in the Boodles Club. The Boodles Club?
What? The Boodles?
The Boodles Club, Boodles, the Boodles Club, a gentleman's club in London where they'd sit around in big leather armchairs and drink port and sherry and talk and smoke cigars. And he would regale Fleming with stories, including one story about a Dutch spy called Peter Tasselaar. And Peter Tasselaar was dropped off. He was literally dropped out of a boat wearing a wetsuit where he swam ashore into, I think, the Netherlands, swam across into the Netherlands, took the wetsuit off, had the tuxedo underneath it.
No, he did not.
Seriously, this is where Bond does it in, I think it's Diamonds Are Forever.
Yep,
right.
It's one of them.
Bond, again, Roger Moore.
Yeah,
Fleming.
Roger Moore, good.
He got all the great stories. Fleming got this story from Biffy, and Biffy was known as Biffy because he was a boxer. He had a massive.
I was going to say he would have been a bit of a boxer.
Yeah, Biffy. So anyway, Biffy was telling him the story about how Peter Tasselaar got on shore, took the wetsuit off with the tuxedo on it because the Nazis were having a party on the beach. They said instead of just lingering around the dunes trying to overhear stuff, put on a tuxedo and get amongst it.
Yeah.
But he poured like half a bottle of Hennessy brandy all over himself, so he stunk of booze, and then staggered around the party as a drunk. And everyone ignored him. So he spent the entire night getting all this information and then swimming back out to the boat, and away he went.
Brilliant.
Right. So this was Biffy. Biffy was this guy who fed Fleming all of these great tales. So that's three more potential Bonds. But I've got one more. We're not going to do it this week. This guy, you need an entire bite-sized episode just for this one guy.
You've hooked me. I need to know.
Yeah. Right. Universal. Listen to us. It's really cool. We're promoting your movie while promoting our podcast. Come on. At I Spy Podcast.
Okay.